Hello and welcome everybody for this webinar regarding predictive analytics. My name is Christophe Gobbens, and with me here today I have Philippe Nemery from SAP. We will be discussing the following topics in this webinar. I'll quickly give a short introduction on predictive. Afterwards, we will go to a use case that will be presented by Philippe. Afterwards, I will quickly have a short talk about my company, Micropole Belgium, and then we will go to the questions and answers through the chat. First of all, what is predictive analytics? Predictive analytics is a field of advanced analytics that encompasses a variety of statistical techniques, from predictive modeling, machine learning, and mining, that analyzes current and historical facts to make predictions about future events and outcomes. If you look at it from a BI perspective, you can state that predictive analytics is actually the next step in your BI adventure. It enriches your data and it can help future business outcomes about gaining insights and value from your data. So, what is actually the cost of not doing predictive analytics? It can lead to missed opportunities, ineffective marketing, lost customer base, loss in production, and some other examples there. And the end result is you have lost revenue, or you can optimize it. If you look at the different type of business problems that can be solved with predictive, there are quite a lot of areas where this type of tooling can become very interesting. So sales and marketing, reducing churn, look at operations, price optimization, quality management, predictive maintenance. In the banking and insurance world, fraud and risk detection, for finance, HR, employee retention modeling, and of course some various other industries where this tooling can become very interesting to apply. Now, there is a shift occurring between who is using predictive analytics. If you want to do predictive analytics in your company, you can either hire a data scientist, which are guys that are highly trained, highly skilled, and that will write a lot of code for you in R or any other software, and then you can use that. That there is real lack of data scientists in the market. They are quite expensive. So there is a gap in the analytics modeling to the end user, to the business. And that is where analytics can play a vital role in leveraging the data assets within your company. Okay. If we look at some use cases, these are well-documented use cases. For example, that the customer churn rate for Cox was reduced by 28%, and 60% of fraudulent transactions was stopped for Monex. So these are well documented, and they can be. I can provide more details upon request regarding those ones. So I now pass on the word to Philippe, who will be taking us through the typical path of doing predictive analytics.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Christophe, you hear me well?
Yep.
Perfect. Great. Good. So before doing a demo, I would like to pinpoint what are the 6 different main important steps that have to be done to put in place predictive analytics, right? So the first thing, and well, that's not necessarily the easy thing, is really to understand and define the business problem. In the area of telco, to give a concrete example, when you speak about churn, you really need to define what is churning. For instance, when you're dealing with customers who are paying a subscription every month upfront, well, then it's clearly defined that a churning person is a person who will cancel its subscription. But if you're considering prepaid customers, then defining churn is more difficult. If you're in other areas like finance, etc., really defining what you want to predict, is it an upsell, etc., is really vital. So that's the first part, is really understanding what do you want to predict, what is the business problem. Second, and that's key. If you don't have this, you can't do anything, is what are the data sources available? So what can you use in order to answer the specific business problem? So if you want to predict churn, a person who will cancel its subscription, well, you will need, of course, demographic information. So who is this customer? How old? Is it a professional or a private account? But you're also interested to know what has this customer been doing in the past? Has it been declining its numbers of calls, etc.? So what are the data sources? Once you've identified all the possible data sources, because your aim is to collect any data point, and in the area of today we have a lot of data, so every interaction with the customer counts. So you want to bring this all together. So that's actually the third step, which is the data preparation step. Is that step you will bring all the data together into one model, into one data set, so that the algorithm, so that the data scientist or a business analyst, and today we will show what a business analyst can do, can work on the data set. So here we come this in the fourth step, which is actually building the model. And I've put on purpose an equation in order to exactly create the opposite effect. You won't have to do any math. You don't need to be a data scientist to be able to build a model by yourself. So we will see that in the demo. Once you have a model, of course, you need to go to the fifth step, which is evaluating and refining your model. Because having a model is good, but you need to make sure that you're able to predict what you want with an accuracy. And you need to make sure that it's going to be a good prediction on new data. So that's what you do in the fifth step. In the sixth step, you will actually consider the deployment and the maintaining of your model. Because having brilliant predictions is good, but a prediction is useless if you don't take an action on that. So if I tell you, this is a customer who's likely to churn tomorrow, then it's very nice, but the best thing is that what we will do in the business to react on that. So that's the action on that. Another point, an important point, is that a model trained today will evolve over time. In 6 months' time, my model cannot be the same because the data, the environment, the competition will have changed. So you need, therefore, to automatically retrain your model. And that's all part of the tool. But today, I will mainly focus on step 4 in order to show you how to build your model effectively. So I should receive, yes. So can you see my screen?
Yep,
Stuff?
that's good.
Perfect. So what we will do today is creating a classification model, a churn model. So that's where you can see I'm here in the predictive analytical tool set, and I will come on the other parts later on if we have time. But I want to do a classification model, and what I want to tackle is a training data set. So in this case, I will work with flat files, but indeed, in a normal production system, your data will be in a database, whatever the database it is. So you could correct directly to the database if you have the privileges. We are even able to work with Excel files or SAS files, but for the purpose of today, I will work with a CSV files. Once you've selected your data set, you will actually do a quick check of what the data is. That's very important. So as I mentioned, if you want to predict in the area of telco your churners, you want to have demographical data. So for instance, the age, the gender, the profession. Okay, but you also want to know what this person has been doing. So the numbers, of course, the last week. Is it using the roaming? What is the annual billing? And so these are all the data which have been all put together for each customer. So that's what you can see here when I connect directly to the file. I see all my customers identified by the contract ID and with the different characteristics. So when that's done, actually we come to the most difficult part and the most important part, which is actually not difficult, but it's just telling you, well, what do you want to predict? So in the previous step, actually, I had a column churn. Why do I have this data? Well, in order to predict what will happen in the future, you need to look at what happened in the past. So I have identified my data set that I'm considering here. My data set that I'm considering at this step is actually the list of churners that have churned, let's say, for instance, in the month of May. And I want to predict, based on the churners of May and the non-churners of May, who will churn in July. And that's why I'm building, in June, a model. So I know who's churning and who's not churning. So you see that there are churners, but there are also non-churners in the data set. So that's what you have to define your target. That's your target variable. But of course, not all the variables that you have in your data set might be useful. So for instance, the name of a customer or the contract ID, that's a variable that should not influence the model, and that's why you exclude it. So once you've made this selection, you'll go. You're good to go. And that was actually the most difficult step. So actually it wasn't. So once you've done that, you just say, I would like to generate the best model for this specific data set. You give it a name to your model so that you can retrain and manage your model properly. So from there on, the software, the tool, will do everything for you. Everything. What does it mean? Well, a data set is never perfect. Never perfect in the sense that there might always be missing variables. So for instance, if you do a survey, some people hesitate to give their salary, or there is a problem when capturing some data. So not all the fields, not all the data is complete. You might wonder what you have to do with text data. You might wonder what you have to do with ordinal data. Well, everything will be processed for you by the solution. And here, after a couple of seconds, we've seen that our model is finished. And we started initially with 13 variables, and we end up with 9 variables, meaning that not all the variables are important. Very important is actually those 2 parameters which will tell you the model that has been generated, is it good? Can I reuse it? So what is the quality and what is the robustness of this model? And that's indicated by these 2 values. And as we can see here, the prediction confidence is 97%, which tells us actually that this model can be applied on a new data set. So this model can be applied on the customers of June in order to predict if they will churn in July. But of course, as a business analyst, you would like to understand the model. And that's what will happen in the display panel. So the first thing is to ask, can I explain churners? And that's why you see here. Here are all the variables which the model has identified to be important for explaining churning or non-churning. So the most contributing factor is the numbers of calls of the last week. So here we can see that persons who did not make any call the last week before they resign are very, very likely to churn. While on the opposite, persons who made more than 4 calls, well, they are not likely to churn. And in the middle, you have a category, persons who have made 1, 2, or 3 calls, which are, well, you need further rules for that, okay? But also, important to notice is that the software has been doing what we call the bidding itself. So at no moment I've been telling the software that I had to say it's either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 calls the last week. No, it's automatically the data preparation that he has identified the category 0, 1, 2, 3, or more than 4. Another important factor in our case is, well, are they using more voice or are they using more data? So we can see that people who are going a lot on the internet, that using a lot of data, well, in this case, they are less likely to churn than people who are just using their phone for calling. So what we can see here is all the attributes and the importance in order to predict churning or not. Why is this important? Well, this will be important when you make a specific evaluation or a specific prediction. So for instance, if I want to predict if Christophe will churn, well, according to his behavior, I will know what is the factor that influences Christophe to churn. This will allow me to tailor-make my message and send a message to Christophe and say, oh, you haven't been calling last week. Why did you do that? Or that's a way of engaging with the right message based on the factors who have been identified. I spoke about quality of the model. So here you can display the quality of a model. And it looks a bit complicated, this model, but in order to explain it very briefly, you have to understand it as follows. The green line is actually the theoretical line. That's what, if we know the future, this is the quality that we should achieve. The red line, that's random. That's if I have to predict if, for instance, Christoph is churning, well, in order to predict that, I will throw a coin. And the result of the coin, that will define if Christoph churns or not. So we see this is completely random. But between the complete random model and the ideal model, we have the blue line. And that's actually telling how good the model is. It's very useful in order to compare different models to each other. As we see here, the blue area is quite big compared to the red area. So that's why we can say it's a good model. Now, of course, you would like to understand a bit more, well, what is actually, we have a lot of different variables, different factors. How do they correlate to each other? What is the combination of these variables in order to predict churn? It's not just based on one factor, but it's based on different factors. So that's why you can see here a decision tree, which kind of mimics the prediction. So we see here that the most important factor was the numbers of calls last week. But then you can add other factors and see and follow the full decision process in order to understand the complete model. So you need to understand it that way, is that in the whole population, 10% are likely to churn. Amongst the whole population, they are more likely to have either 0 or either 1 or 2 or 3 calls per week. And few have more than 4%. But what we can see is that the one who have 0 calls per week, they have a high churn rate, 16%. You can see here that the one whose age is higher than 75, they are also very likely to churn. So you can see here and follow the complete decision flow. Another important factor is the confusion matrix. And the confusion matrix needs to be understood as follows. Sending a marketing offer can be for free. So you just send an email or set a SMS, but that might not make them reactive. So you might say, well, if you come back or if you stay at us, we will give you a €5 voucher, or you will have a reduction of €5. So you agree with me that this has a cost. So this means that if you send a promotion to someone who's not likely to churn, so a normal customer, you're kind of losing €5. While if you decide not to send this promotion to someone who's likely to churn, well, you miss the opportunity to win this customer back. So that's why we have this confusion matrix, and actually we compare the prediction, yes, it's a churner, no, it's not a churner, to the reality based on a historical data set. And if we fill in, for instance, the gain that we have of identifying a churner and keeping him could be €30, the fact of sending a voucher of €5 to someone who's not likely to churn means that it's a cost, but actually can then perform a cost-benefit analysis and see directly that you should target 10% of your population, and you will also make the profit. The gain is €1,800, just based on this simple data set. But now, okay, we have a model, we have understood the model, and we can have as a scorecard, and this is the last rebarbative disgusting equation that I want to show you. Well, this is actually the model, but you agree with me that this is not very digestible. We've seen how the decision tree explained this model, but the question is now, how can you apply it? How can you use it for the future? That's why you can simulate what would happen if you fill in for a new customer. So in this case, I'm just filling in data about a customer, and I will have directly the estimation of the customer with this characteristics. What is the probability that this customer will churn? So this is one way to leverage the model that you've built. Another way is to export your model or to apply your model on a new data set. So that's what I will first do, is I will apply my model directly on a new data set, and I will first use the model, I will call it my new customers. I would like the individual contributions, and I want to generate this in a specific file. So what I'm doing here is that I'm generating a file which contains the predictions of the churners, of my new customers, so the customers in June, and this tells me who will churn in July. So this allows me to really target those customers and send them a specific offer. So when you apply this, you can see here that on my list of customers, in this case I've got only 13 customers, I wanted to make it small, there is one churner and all the others are good. So I know that customer 91 has to be targeted, and I can also look at what is for this particular person, the contributing factor. So this really allows me to tailor-make my message for this person. Finally, working in the prompt, as you can see here, is good, but what is even better, if you can embed this model into your production. That's why we have the last step, which is the save and export, where you can generate the model that we have built together in a lot of different formats. So it could be in Java code, directly in SQL code, so that you put it in the Oracle database, or in SQL code, SAS code, etc. So that's a way of exporting directly the model into your database. So I will do here as a demo in a HTML file. I generate this. I go to my folders. Demo HTML. I will open it. And you can see here directly, well, that here my model has been directly embedded in JavaScript. So if I give it the value, you will see directly the probability of churning. So that's, in a nutshell, all the steps involved in order to build a model, to train the model, and then to apply the model. So I will give the road now back to Christophe.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Philip. So indeed, very interesting demo. And I don't think I will be churning, but you can always send me a next best offer, Philip, and then we'll see how we take it. Okay, so actually, so we've been seeing the predictive analytics software at work, and why is this different than other softwares on the market like SAS, SPSS? Pretty much, it's an all-in-one, preparing the data, modeling it, visualizing it is all in one tool, which is something that the other tools on the market simply don't have. Very fast. It's working in minutes instead of hours. What Philip was just doing at generating a model, if you do it by hand and really coding everything end to end, it will take weeks to months. And now it took a couple of minutes, and we already had the probability of churn individual customer. Upscaling. It can handle tens to 10,000s of variables. It's easy to use. I think that Philip made it quite clear that it is a software that, okay, given a certain amount of training, can be put in the hands of your analyst working for your company today, and it unlocks the predictive capabilities for your company. Obviously, since it's a product by SAP, it is well integrated with HANA, Business Warehouse, ERP, or any business you may have. Right. So pretty much, if you look at the business reasons why to get predictive analytics, it will improve your decision making. You will understand your customers a lot better. What Philip was just showing before, which are the explaining variables that can predict the behavior of a customer. So it will really help you understand your customer and needs. Improve the company performance, drive the new incoming revenues. You can act in real time. So those are all big benefits that that predictive analytics can bring to your organization. Quickly about Micropole before we do the Q&A. We are an international group with 1,100 employees. In 2015, we had a consolidated revenue of just over 100 million euros. 30% of the turnover, because we're a French company, is international, so meaning Belgium as well. So there you see our locations where we are present. If we look at predictive analytics, that fits actually in what we call our data value management. So what are those? For example, helping you with your analytical needs, agile value management, so big data proof of the warehouses to the cloud, all of that we can deliver. Enable data exploration and visualization, really the new self-service capabilities. We can help you transform your current BI landscape and maximize the business you can get from your data. Also transforming the strategy, the architecture of your entire infrastructure. If we look at the other parts of the offering, so the fourth one is really what we just actually saw, the enabling predictions and advanced analytics, what we would call data science. Obviously, what is also very important is the quality of your data. You can have the best model that you want, but without having qualitative data, the model will simply not work. So in order to align the data and improve the quality, there is also a need to put some work into that, and we can help you fill that gap. We can also, of course, provide experts in any given domain that I just discussed to fill the skill gap that you might have in your company. Some of our clients, so you can see we're quite international, and we are active in pretty much every industry that there is. So there we go. So I think we can now go to the questions and answers. So Philip, I will be waiting for some questions from the audience. Maybe already one question on my end. Can you say maybe something, because you're an SAP guy, can you maybe say something about the roadmap for predictive analytics going forward?
Sure. So the one important thing that I haven't mentioned is that, well, I've shown everything for the business analyst, but there is also another part which is completely devoted for the data scientist. So where the data scientist, if you have any data scientists in your company, well, he still will be able to continue to model he build his model in R, in other tools, and bring it all together into one thing. Very important is actually that we will have now the predictive factory. So the predictive factory is really to maintain, reschedule, automate the building of your models, and also detect deviations. Another point is that we will be able to create models on the fly, if I could say. So you could say, well, I would like to make a prediction if a person will buy product A, but in your store you don't have only one product, you have 1,000 products. Well, this will be automated directly, so that you will, in simple clicks, not build one model, but 1,000 models. So that's additional things that are now or will be in a tool very soon.
Okay, that's very good. Also, how does predictive analytics integrate with, for example, the self-service tool Lumira from SAP?
So that's a very, very good question. So in Lumira standalone, there are two features that are actually already using the algorithm of predictive analytics. This is the time series forecasting, and that you can find in Lumira, and the explanatory wizard. So if you click in Lumira on one dimension, right, you can ask the tool to explain, well, what are the explanatory variables from that dimension. So this exists in Lumira. But the predictive expert part, which I haven't shown, which is more devoted to the data scientist, well, he has all the features of Lumira embedded in his tool. And the expert part and the automated part that I've shown you today, well, this is what we call into one name, the predictive analytics tool. So Lumira and predictive analytics are, for the moment, very tightly integrated.
Thank you, Philippe. So looking at the time here, and we're just hitting 30 minutes, so right on time. Philippe and myself would like to thank everybody for attending. I will be sending out presentations to everybody who registered and also the recording, so you can share it with your colleagues or be interested. Very much for the demo, and we will be hearing from you hopefully in the future. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.